writing pals! My name is Anna Renee and I am a writer here on YouTube, and today I'm going to walk you through the 3 basic things that you need to know in order to world build. So this is not a super extensive list of things that, every single thing that you need to know for world building. This is just my 3 basic things that I think everyone needs to know when world building. So we're gonna start it off with tip number 1, which is pick your world. So you really have 3 options when writing a fiction book. First option is a high fantasy world. That means a world of your own making. So you built it from scratch. Think the Narnia part of the Chronicles of Narnia. Option number 2 would be a low fantasy world, which is our world that we live in right now, but with magic. Think Twilight or Harry Potter. And then the final option is a contemporary world. So that is just our world, just the way it is. Think any contemporary novel that you can think of that doesn't have magic in it, because I don't read contemporary novels. Let's see, The Fault in Our Stars, that was a contemporary novel. I watched the movie. But yeah, so those are your 3 options: high fantasy, low fantasy, and contemporary. And once you've picked that world, we'll go on to step number 2, which is to pick your time. So I think this is very, very crucial with low fantasy and with contemporary, because you need to know exactly what time frame you're working in. Because if you're working in the 1900s, early 1900s, you aren't going to have an LG smart TV. So it's very important for these things to know that you are being consistent with your world building throughout the story and that things aren't crazy. Now with low fantasy, you might be able to get away with a couple of fun things, especially if there's time travel involved. That also goes along with high fantasy, but I'll talk about that in a second. But being consistent and knowing your time is very important for writing a book. You don't want things to be inconsistent and to pull the reader out of the reader experience and be like, wait a second, what? I don't think that's right. And then they go and Google it, and then they'd find out that it was inconsistent. They'd be like, wow, that author's an idiot. Don't be an idiot author. If you're writing a book, you probably have, you're on YouTube, you have access to the interwebs, you have access to Google. Google things. Google it. And then with high fantasy, which is your 3rd world option, picking a time frame is also very important, because with my high fantasy worlds, have mirrored things against the real world. So in my book, Down the Fox Path, technologically, I don't go past the end of the 19th century. So anything from 1900 forward doesn't exist in my world, even though it isn't our Earth. So it just helps me keep my options in check so that I know things that I can implement and can't implement. It just makes decision making easy. With time period wise with high fantasy though, I would be cautious and be thinking about whether you're going to have time travel in your book. So making sure that, if time travel is a big thing, why is it such a big plot point? And then from there, figure out, okay, well, if we're going 50 years into the past, let's think about things that they wouldn't have had 50 years ago. If we're going 50 years into the future, same thing, things that they would have that we don't have now. And then step number 3, which I think is the 3rd, very important thing that you need to know when world building, and that is your geography. So you need to know where things are in relativity to each other. How do you get to those places? Who has access to getting to those places, and how they do it? So that, I think, is very important, because I think that there should be obstacles in your main character's way outside of your villain. So geography and travel is a great way to do that. Maybe they aren't able to get to the place that they need to because of geological difficulties, like a raging mountain or a treacherous river or high winds. I don't know, you're the author, it's up to you to pick what's in your main character's way. But I think geography is just a great way to help add tension to a story. They need to get to a place, and it's not that there's someone standing in their way, it's that there's a mountain standing in their way, so they have to figure out how to cross over it, and all of these things, and I think it's just great. It's also great, again, as the theme of this video is to keep things consistent. So consistency, I really think, is key in writing. You want to make sure that your reader understands what's happening and that there are a good set of rules that you can always fall back on. Geography matters no matter if you're writing high fantasy, low fantasy, or a contemporary fiction novel. So those are the basic 3 things that I think every author needs to know when world building, no matter the world that they are building. And so I hope that you found those tips useful. I hope that you found me useful, and that if you do, you would press like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. I upload fun, bookish, and writing related videos twice a week. You can also follow me on all of my socials. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at XannasBooks, where you can get a little bit more Xanna and a little bit more Maestro the cat in your week. And so I will see you next time. Bye!